My cheating wife shattered the life we built together. Just a little over 4 months ago, my wife, Rachel, 37F, started a new job and quickly made a group of new friends. I'm Ethan, 36M, and to be honest, I wasn't a fan of her new crowd. These women were staunch feminists, the kind that seem to find fault in everything a man does. Hold the door open, you're patronizing. Don't hold it, you're inconsiderate. Either way, you're always wrong. At first, I shrugged it off, thinking it was just a phase. But over the past 2 months, Rachel started to change in ways that were hard to ignore. We've been married for 11 years and have 2 kids, Emily, 10F, and Logan, 8M. Things got progressively worse. Rachel started accusing me of ridiculous things, claiming I was inherently bad just because of my gender and historical oppression. Acts of love and kindness that she used to cherish now sparked fights. The arguments followed a pattern. I'd calmly explain, "Rachel, I've done nothing to hurt you. The only crime I'm guilty of is loving you." This would usually end the conversation with her grumbling, but by the next day, she'd come back with a different angle to start another argument. About 5 weeks ago, a sharp gut feeling hit me. Something was really wrong. One night, she came home late, unannounced, and didn't answer her phone all evening. When she finally returned, she was drunk, cold, and distant. The next day, when I asked her about it, she dismissed my concerns, saying I was being controlling and overthinking everything. This started happening more often. I tried to check her phone a few times, but I couldn't find concrete evidence. It seemed like she'd been deleting a lot of messages. Then I stumbled upon a chat with one of her new friends. They were discussing how Rachel planned to talk to me about opening our marriage. That was when the pieces clicked. My gut feeling wasn't lying, she was cheating. I read the thread, and it was clear she intended to bring this up on the second Monday of December. Coincidentally, the kids were with their grandparents for an early Christmas celebration that day, and we were supposed to join them later. Rachel tried to start the conversation during breakfast, acting as if this was some casual idea she just thought of. Luckily, I was ready. I had been preparing for this moment, and even started recording the interaction. I'd read enough stories online to know that the relationship was likely unsalvageable. At this point, my goal was to protect myself and the kids while preserving whatever shred of self-respect I had left. I stayed calm, though my heart was pounding. I leaned into the moment, interrogating her with clenched-jawed determination. Her confidence crumbled as soon as she saw my expression. "So, who is it?" I asked, my voice steady but ice-cold. She tried to play innocent. "What are you talking about? Rachel, don't treat me like a fool. If you want to have this conversation, at least respect me enough to be honest. Who is the guy?" "I don't know what you mean," she replied, looking away. I shook my head in disbelief. "If you can't be honest with me, there's no point in even having this discussion. Tell me the truth now, or we're done. No arguments, no second chances. Do you understand me?" Her face paled, and she stammered, I understand." She confessed to having 2 one-night stands with married men while out with her friends. She gave me their names and admitted they both had kids. Then, as if that wasn't enough, she nonchalantly mentioned her plans to sleep with a coworker and pursue this lifestyle because it was good for her. She even claimed I didn't have the right to stop her. I was stunned. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. Rachel then suggested I explore the same arrangement, and offered to set me up with one of her friends, someone she said was really interested. I'd met the woman in question before, and let's just say she wasn't remotely appealing to me. I told Rachel I wasn't interested. When I asked for her phone, she unlocked it and handed it over. While she went to the bathroom, I locked myself in my office. She quickly realized what I was doing and started banging on the door, demanding I give it back. Meanwhile, I used recovery software to retrieve deleted messages, uncovering a trove of painful evidence. I also installed a monitoring app to keep track of any further betrayals. After about 30 minutes, I returned the phone and told her to leave. She argued, cried, and tried to deflect, but I wasn't having it. I barely said a word in response. Rachel wasn't showing any remorse at all, just anger. She yelled that I was controlling, that I'd held her back like men supposedly always held women back. She accused me of never truly loving her and insisted she had every right to do this. According to her, I was overreacting, and she expected me to accept her actions without question. She claimed it wasn't a big deal. I didn't argue. I didn't even raise my voice. Instead, I quietly started packing her things while she paced the room, shouting at me. By the time I made it to the front door, she had finally run out of steam. I stood there silently, holding the door open, waiting for her to leave. Reluctantly, she said she'd go to her parents' house. As she walked down the stairs, I told her, "You're single now, Rachel. Do whatever you want. I'm not controlling you anymore. My lawyer will be in touch in January." She turned to respond, but I slammed the door and locked it before she could get a word in. Later, I watched as Rachel messaged her friends. They congratulated her for being so strong, and urged her to fight for what she was entitled to. They assured her my threats were empty and that I wouldn't follow through with the divorce. They couldn't have been more wrong. What disturbed me most was one friend suggesting Rachel accuse me of domestic abuse if things got messy. This friend even bragged about doing it to her own ex-husband, using false accusations to take everything from him. I was horrified. I've never threatened Rachel or laid a hand on her. The fact that this even crossed their minds left me shaken. I immediately ordered security cameras for the house. I knew I needed to document everything to protect myself. While I was still processing this, I saw Rachel messaging her affair partner, AP, to arrange a hotel meetup. I was stunned all over again. I decided to track down the AP's wife. With a little digging online, I found her and reached out through Facebook. She accepted my request, and I told her everything, including their plans to meet at the hotel. She thanked me and hung up. A few hours later, she sent me a video. She had gone to the motel and confronted them. From the yelling, it was clear this wasn't the first time her husband had cheated on her. "You jerk! You're doing this to me again? To the kids again? I told you it was over if you ever did this again," she screamed. She stormed into the room and filmed Rachel sitting on the edge of the bed, scrambling to get dressed. Watching that video for the first time made me physically ill. The AP's wife slapped Rachel and tore into her, cursing her out while Rachel just stood there, silent and ashamed. After seeing the video, I texted Rachel, saying, "I saw the footage from the hotel. Don't ever come near me again." It's like she sees our entire situation as a competition she thinks she's winning. It's absolutely delusional. I can't understand her mindset. It's as if she's completely disconnected from reality and doesn't grasp that this is serious, that we are divorcing. To make it clear, I logged into her family's WhatsApp group and told them the truth: we're divorcing because of her infidelity. I thanked them for welcoming me into the family over the years, then left the group. Since then, I've gotten a few calls and messages from her relatives, but I haven't responded. I just don't have the energy. I called my parents and explained everything. My father texted Rachel to let her know she was no longer welcome at our family's Christmas celebration. I'm staying at my parents' house now. I talked to my boss, and he's been understanding, giving me time off until mid-January to sort things out. Meanwhile, I've been monitoring Rachel's increasingly frantic conversations with her new friends. They don't care about her the way she seems to think they do. And her AP? He's shown no real concern for her either. Rachel has sent me countless messages and even showed up at my parents' house, demanding to join us for Christmas. My father firmly told her to leave and threatened to call the police if she didn't. Now I'm sitting here, searching for divorce lawyers while crying my heart out. I think I've been in shock until now, but being here at my parents' house has made the pain hit full force. I can't wrap my head around any of it. Reading through her chats and even thinking about her is like reopening a wound that hasn't even begun to heal. I only responded to Rachel twice after her barrage of messages. Both times I was firm, resolute, and completely done. the first message read. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't know who you are anymore. You are not the woman I married. My wife would never destroy my heart and soul while smiling. We will get a divorce. I don't care about your explanations or desires. You have no influence or right to demand anything from me ever again. This is over. The second message came when she persisted. Like I said, you're not the woman I married. My wife would never willingly put our children through the pain of growing up in a broken home. But you, whoever you are now, you seem proud of what you've done. My wife was loving, caring, and considerate. She was my best friend. You, on the other hand, are a selfish, self-absorbed stranger. After that, the messages stopped. It was a small relief, but the pain was still unbearable. At times, it feels like I'm drowning in it. I wish none of this had happened. Part of me wants to believe we could go back to the way things were before, but I know that's impossible. I can't betray myself by allowing her back into my life. The damage is irreparable. This is, without question, the worst Christmas of my life. When the kids asked about their mom, I couldn't hold back. I told them the truth, or at least part of it. Mommy doesn't want to be a family anymore. She wants to be with other men. That's why we're getting a divorce. Emily and Logan were devastated. Seeing their tears broke me all over again, but thankfully, my parents were there. They'd been showering the kids with love and attention, while I tried to hold myself together. I'll do my best to get back on my feet for the kids, but there's no going back to Rachel. Ever. I regret not waiting until after Christmas to explain things to the kids. At least then, I could have gotten them into counseling right away. Instead, I blurted it out in a moment of raw emotion when they asked when their mom would be home. There's no way I could look at myself in the mirror if I took Rachel back. Her lack of respect and sheer cruelty are unforgivable. I feel lost, unable to understand why she still thinks she can demand anything from me. Is she completely detached from reality? Is there something mentally wrong with her? Sorry if this sounds like an incoherent rant. I just needed to get it off my chest. Edited. I checked with a lawyer through a friend, and it turns out I'm in the clear when it comes to monitoring the phone. The device and subscription are under my name, so legally, I'm within my rights to keep track of what's happening. Update 1. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. I still can't fathom why Rachel thinks her behavior is okay. So much has happened since I last posted, though I can't take any credit for it. I've been a wreck, crying, obsessing over her chats with her friends, and spiraling into despair. The things she said in those chats were both insane and deeply hurtful. The final straw came when she referred to our marriage and children as burdens. She claimed we had held her back from reaching her full potential. According to her, I was an oppressive figure in her life who stopped her from achieving career success and living a so-called better life filled with casual relationships and freedom. Reading that shattered me. Her comments were full of blanket statements with no real examples to back them up. It's infuriating because I've never once stopped her from pursuing anything. I've always paid for nearly everything, supported her hobbies, encouraged her dreams, and even stood by her when she repeatedly dropped out of classes she wanted to take. I've done everything I could to show her love and appreciation, from romantic gestures to just being there for her when she needed me. If that's her definition of oppression, sign me up for it. Eventually, the pain of rereading her words over and over again was too much, and I passed out from sheer exhaustion. When I woke up, I found my dad and my 3 closest friends, Mike, Bob, and Frank, in the kitchen making dinner. I've known them since childhood, and seeing them there was like a lifeline. My dad had filled them in on everything, and they came to support me. I broke down again, completely out of it until Friday evening. Mike, who's ex-military and lost his left arm below the elbow years ago, set up a Zoom session with his old counselor. Mike went through hell when his own wife left him during his recovery, but he rebuilt his life, adopted 2 kids, and found a wonderful girlfriend. His resilience has always inspired me. The counselor helped me make sense of my emotions. He explained how many people, especially spouses, abandon their partners during difficult times. Hearing his stories and examples gave me some much-needed clarity. During the counseling session Mike arranged, the counselor asked me to reflect on my soul and sense of self. He compared it to an amputee's experience, how a missing limb causes phantom pain. A part of me, tied deeply to my role as a husband and our marriage, was now dead. The pain I was feeling, the emptiness, was like a phantom ache from the loss of that part of my identity. We spent hours talking, and though it didn't erase the hurt, I've been gradually improving since. Bob, one of my oldest friends, stepped in next. He works as an executive for a security company, though he's always been private about what exactly he does. What I do know is that he's very well off. Bob contacted a top-tier law firm on retainer for his company, and by Sunday morning, I was on a call with a lawyer I could never afford in a million years. Bob assured me not to worry about the cost. He was happy to cover it. "You've got no idea how many times you took hits from me back in school," he said. "It's about time I returned the favor." It's true, I was often stepping in to defend him from bullies. Hearing him acknowledge that meant more to me than I could express. Frank, our other lifelong friend, is a teacher at a private school and a father of 7 kids. Yes, 7. My kids absolutely adore him and his family. While I've been trying to pull myself together, Frank has been helping take care of Emily and Logan, making sure they feel loved and supported. Yesterday was a whirlwind. It started with an early morning trip to get an STD screening. That's when I found out Rachel had given me chlamydia. I'll need to be retested in 6 months. The news sent me into a spiral of pure, seething anger. That was it. Gloves off. I decided I'd do everything in my power to make sure she got as little as possible in the divorce. The lawyer Bob connected me with quickly got to work. She managed to track down the ex-husband of Rachel's feminist friend, the one who had bragged about screwing him over in her divorce. The lawyer pulled his contact information from court documents, which I wouldn't have thought to do. I reached out to him on WhatsApp, and he told me everything. Hearing his story was absolutely gut-wrenching. He'd been left homeless and had barely seen his kids for 4 years, all because of lies his ex-wife told during their divorce. It was sickening, but it gave me insight into what to expect from Rachel. I'm under no illusions. I know the legal system often puts men at a disadvantage. That's why I'm preparing. I have mountains of evidence, and my lawyer has advised me to file a restraining order, citing Rachel's openly aggressive and anti-male comments. This is especially important for Logan's sake. No child should grow up in a household where one parent actively expresses hatred toward their gender. We're going for full custody. My lawyer is drafting the paperwork, and Rachel will likely be served today. Yesterday, I had a Zoom call with Rachel. She hasn't reached out since her blow-up at my dad's door, and she hasn't contacted the kids either. It's like we don't exist to her. The call was surreal. Rachel was all dressed up, with dramatic makeup and a plunging neckline. I haven't seen her put this much effort into her appearance in years. It was obvious she was trying to present herself as irresistible. She started the conversation with a bizarre monologue about 2 types of men and their anatomy, which left me absolutely dumbfounded. Who opens a conversation with their husband like that? Then she casually mentioned how she was excited to go out and investigate this theory in person once restrictions lifted. I told her, "I'm not interested in your hobbies. I only want to discuss our divorce." She didn't take that well. She grew increasingly hostile, trying to provoke me into anger, but I stayed calm. My lawyer had prepped me well, explaining that any attempt to negotiate amicably would reflect positively if we ended up in a contested divorce. I even informed Rachel that I was recording the call. At one point, she muted herself and began consulting her friends on what to say to me. I sat there, watching her mouth off about me, cursing me for nothing more than being a man. It's like she thought this was all a game, that she held all the cards and I had no choice but to give in to whatever she demanded. When it became clear we wouldn't make any progress on the divorce, I ended the call with one last statement. "By the way, you gave me chlamydia. And unlike you, I haven't been sleeping with anyone else, so you'd better get yourself to a clinic. She just frowned at me, completely unbothered, and muttered something dismissive. It was like she couldn't even comprehend the gravity of her actions. At this point, I don't care what's going on in her head anymore. I sent the recording to my lawyer, and even she was stunned by Rachel's behavior. Everyone around me now thinks Rachel has completely lost touch with reality. Maybe she has. Since I own Rachel's phone and the subscription, I found out I can legally use her chat logs in court. It turns out I'm completely within my rights to monitor the device as much as I want. After our Zoom call, Rachel and her friends had a frantic discussion, but I have finally managed to emotionally disconnect from their toxic chatter. I no longer care about what they're saying, it's just noise to me now. My lawyer is confident we'll win this case unless there's something I haven't disclosed, and I've been completely transparent with her. So here I am. The pain is still there, but I can treat it like phantom pain, always lingering but no longer debilitating. I've abandoned the self-pity and shifted my focus. From here on out, I'm going for the jugular. No holding back. No prisoners. I need to protect myself and my kids. They'll be okay, I'll make sure of it. Therapy will be available to them as much as they need, and I'll do everything in my power to build a better life for us. As for Rachel? She'll soon be nothing more than a distant, painful memory. Edited. Today, I found out Rachel knew about the chlamydia. She got treatment for it but didn't tell me. To make it worse, she was joking and laughing about it with her friends. Update 2. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be okay with her behavior? I've received a lot of comments about how strong I am or how I seem to be winning in this situation. Rereading my posts, I can see how my anger might make me come across as confident and sure of myself. The truth? I'm not. I wish none of this had happened. I wish my family was still whole and that I could look forward to a long, peaceful life with Rachel as our kids grew up. But no one is the winner here. Rachel has completely gone off the rails, and our life together feels like a train wreck that's burning in a ditch. I can't make sense of her behavior. She refuses to see a medical professional, insists nothing is wrong with her, and shows no remorse. It's as if she thinks I'm the unreasonable one for not bending to her will. Since D-Day, she hasn't even contacted the kids, not once. I'm divorcing her because I have no choice. There's no way back from what she's done. I can never trust her again. Every night, I cry myself to sleep for what we've lost and for the reality that my children will grow up in a broken home. It breaks my heart even more knowing that my kids no longer have a functional relationship with their mother. And then there's the question Emily and Logan keep asking me. Why doesn't Mommy want to see me anymore? Doesn't she love me? How do you even answer that? If anyone reading this has advice, I'd love to hear it because I sure as hell don't know what to say. Every day, I tell myself my heart can't break any more than it already has, only to be proven wrong again and again. Rachel doesn't seem to realize, or care, that I can monitor her communications. She's convinced I'll never actually leave her, and that my reaction to her behavior is unjustified. In her messages to her friends, she continues to badmouth me, our marriage, and even our children. I don't understand why she hates us so much. None of us have done anything to deserve this. My lawyer successfully secured a temporary restraining order against her. There was a hearing yesterday, but since there were no new direct threats, the order wasn't extended. My lawyer now plans to use the fact that Rachel knowingly infected me with an STD as leverage to push for an uncontested divorce. I agreed to try for an amicable separation. I hate that I have to see Rachel as the enemy, but I'll do what I must to protect my kids and myself. If she wanted to leave me, I could have handled that, but why force this adversarial process? Why go out of her way to hurt the people who once loved her? I can't understand what she hopes to gain from all this. If we go to court, I'll likely have to pay her a lump sum for the equity in our house, but I'm confident I won't owe alimony. Since she's shown no interest in the kids, I'm optimistic about winning full custody. Meanwhile, I spent New Year's Eve with my kids and the ex-husband of Rachel's feminist friend. His story is a harsh reminder of how unjust the legal system can be for fathers. Hearing about his struggles, losing access to his kids for years based on lies, solidified my resolve. No matter what happens, I will protect my children, and I'll make sure they know they are loved. I have no illusions about getting a fair process if we end up in court. The ex-husband of Rachel's friend shared horror stories about how his ex lied throughout their proceedings, and the court took everything she said as fact, no evidence required. He's barely seen his children in years and is forced to pay exorbitant amounts in alimony and child support. It's left him completely broken. He even admitted he'd been contemplating ending it all. With the new evidence I provided, he has renewed hope. We both spoke with my lawyer, who suggested he hold off on taking action until after Rachel and I meet with her counsel. Moving too soon would tip them off that we've accessed all their communications. My lawyer is focused on finalizing my divorce from Rachel as quickly and smoothly as possible. If Rachel decides to fight, this process could drag on for what feels like an eternity. I'm completely stressed out. I just want to be free. To keep things on track, my lawyer advised me to respond calmly and non-confrontationally during the meeting, no matter what. She also instructed me to stay completely silent if she placed her hands flat on the table, a subtle signal for me to hold my tongue. Rachel and her friend showed up late to the meeting, of course, and without masks. From the moment they walked in, the insults started. Rachel's friend, let's call her the Harpy, took every opportunity to mock me, laughing loudly at her own jabs. Rachel joined in, and the two of them seemed more focused on joking than discussing the divorce. My lawyer did her best to redirect the conversation to the matter at hand, but it was like wrangling children. Rachel's behavior made it painfully clear she still doesn't believe the divorce is real. In her mind, I'll never go through with it. She thinks only she can leave me, and only when it suits her. I stayed composed, limiting my responses to neutral lines like, "Yes, you're probably right," or, "I really don't know." Eventually, their banter fizzled out, and my lawyer began presenting the terms of the proposed settlement. She explained that I was willing to be generous to reach a peaceful resolution quickly. As part of the settlement, I would pay Rachel a lump sum of $60,000 for her share of the equity in our house, investments, and other assets. Rachel's demeanor changed instantly. She perked up, practically buzzing with excitement. She and her Harpy friend nudged each other and asked where she could sign. My lawyer repeatedly asked if Rachel wanted to go over the rest of the agreement first, but she waved it off. She was laser-focused on the money, even asking when she'd receive it so they could head to the pub. At this point, my lawyer called someone in and whispered something to them. An older woman came in, requested our IDs, and produced 2 copies of the agreement for us to sign. Once the documents were signed, the woman stamped them. It turns out she was a notary. Afterward, my lawyer, visibly holding back her amusement, thanked Rachel and her friend before showing them out. Rachel didn't even take her copy of the agreement with her, she left it on the table. As we watched them cross the parking lot, my lawyer turned to me and said, "Congratulations." She then admitted this was one of the strangest negotiation sessions she'd ever witnessed. She explained that Rachel's copy of the agreement would remain in her office until after the hearing or until Rachel's lawyer formally requested it. On the surface, it looks like I'll get through this divorce much more easily than I initially feared. However, Rachel could still hire legal representation and try to contest it. My lawyer is working to expedite the process, calling in every favor she can think of to secure a hearing with a judge as soon as possible. Yesterday was the hearing. I'm essentially divorced now. The paperwork will take 4 to 6 months to finalize, but at this stage, the outcome is practically set in stone. The only way it could be reversed is if Rachel and I both agreed to halt the process, and that's not happening. I'm so tired. I've lost count of how many days it's been since I've had a proper night's sleep. If this post seems scattered, I apologize. I just need to get this out of my system so I can hopefully rest. My incredible lawyer worked a miracle and got me a hearing just 12 days after filing the paperwork. I can't thank her enough for that. The week leading up to the hearing was chaos. On Friday morning, a group of police officers arrived at my house with a warrant to search the premises. I was confused and worried about the kids, so I asked if I could take them outside while they conducted their search. Thankfully, they agreed. The police didn't tell me much during the search, but they handed me a copy of the warrant. I was so shaken up I could barely make sense of it. Looking back, I think everyone who suggested Rachel's erratic behavior might be drug-related was probably right. It's safe to say that's at least part of the equation. The officers absolutely trashed my house during their search. I called my lawyer, who spoke to them, but since the warrant was valid, there wasn't much to be done at the time. It didn't occur to me until later, but I now have cameras set up throughout the house, including audio recordings, to protect myself in case of false accusations. Everything from the search is documented. Maybe I'll file a claim against the police for the damage, but honestly, I don't know if I have the energy for that. Part of me just wants to draw a line under all of this and move on. I learned later what had triggered the search. Rachel and her 3 harpy friends had taken my car while high and drunk. They crashed it into a house at high speed and were all arrested. Every single one of them was intoxicated, with drugs both in their systems and in their possession. The crash left them pretty roughed up. One of the women, who was in the passenger seat, is in critical condition, and doctors aren't sure if she'll make it. The ringleader, Henrietta, the one who bragged about lying in court to screw over her ex-husband, was driving. Let's call her ex-husband Henry. Thankfully, Henry and I have become close friends through all of this. The police didn't find anything incriminating during their search of my house. I gave my statement. Rachel no longer lives here, she resides with her parents, and I had no idea she or Henrietta were driving my car, let alone while intoxicated. When the police left, I stepped back into the wreckage of my home and completely broke down. Everything was in shambles, and it felt like the final straw. I called my dad, who came over right away with the kids and brought us to my mom's house for the night. While I sat on the back porch, sobbing into a plate of my mom's incredible comfort food, my dad rallied 26 friends and family members. They came to my house and worked tirelessly to clean and repair everything. By the time they finished, every room in the house sparkled. They washed the walls and ceilings, fixed loose door handles, cleaned up the chaos from the police search, everything. The house has never looked this good. I couldn't believe their kindness. I have no idea how I'll ever repay them. That night, I went from feeling utterly defeated to having a glimmer of hope, all thanks to the people who showed up for me. In the days that followed, things kept escalating. The police found more drugs at Henrietta's house. Her boyfriend wasn't there, and the kids were left alone, no babysitter, nothing. CPS intervened, and Henry was granted temporary emergency custody after showing the judge chat logs, evidence of neglect, and the drugs found in the home. Henry is over the moon. He hasn't seen much of his kids in the past 5 years. While he still has to go to court to make the custody arrangement permanent, the odds are strongly in his favor now. Everyone expects Henrietta to serve jail time, and if her critically injured friend doesn't survive, the charges will likely be much more severe. Henry plans to pursue child support and compensation for what Henrietta has put him through, but his priority is rebuilding his relationship with his kids and giving them a stable, loving home. Bob, as usual, has been incredible. He helped Henry secure a rental apartment through one of his connections. I've come to realize how little I actually know about Bob's personal and professional life, and I'm determined to change that. I've decided to sell my house and move away as soon as possible. With Rachel still legally registered at this address, I'm afraid something like this could happen again. On Sunday, Rachel's parents called me. Their house had also been searched, and after visiting Rachel in jail, they admitted they no longer trust anything she says. They came over that afternoon, visibly shaken, and we had a long conversation. It turns out Rachel has been lying to them for months. On the nights she was out partying and cheating, she told them she was staying with me, claiming we were working on our marriage. Rachel's parents had no idea of the full extent of what she'd done. They knew she cheated but believed her story that it was a one-time, drunken mistake. That's the narrative she fed them, and they had no reason to doubt it, until recently. On Monday, Rachel called me from jail, asking me to post her $15,000 bail. Her parents had already refused. After consulting with my lawyer, we drafted an agreement that the bail would be deducted from her settlement if she showed up to court, and the bail money was released. The agreement also stipulated that her mother would hold the remaining funds in trust. My lawyer explained that securing her release was strategic. Without bail, Rachel might miss the hearing and drag out the process. Left with no other options, Rachel signed the paperwork. She was released that afternoon. According to her parents, Rachel refused to follow the conditions they set for her to continue living with them, things like staying off drugs, entering rehab, and cutting ties with her toxic friends. By Tuesday, she had left their home to stay with some of those same friends. Rachel didn't show up for the hearing. My lawyer presented the evidence of her behavior over the weekend, as well as her absence, and I was granted full custody of Emily and Logan. The settlement terms followed the agreement we made during our negotiation. The entire process was quick, only about 30 minutes. While it will take 4 to 6 months for the paperwork to be processed, the outcome is effectively final. There's almost nothing that can reverse it now. I didn't sleep last night. Everyone around me was congratulating me, treating this like some kind of victory. But it doesn't feel like I've won anything. This is pure pain. I still love Rachel. Or maybe it's more accurate to say I love the person she used to be, the one who was my best friend and soulmate for so many years. I know it's over, there's no way back from this. But knowing that doesn't stop it from hurting like hell. No one wins here. I've lost my wife. Rachel has lost her family. And our children have lost the stable home they deserve. When people congratulate me, it feels hollow, like being praised for salvaging part of a shipwreck. It's as if I've saved a single plank of wood while the rest of the ship sank to the bottom of the ocean. My nightmares are relentless. When I do manage to sleep, I wake up drenched in cold sweat, haunted by everything that's happened. Today, I got a call from the hospital. Rachel is still listed as my emergency contact, and she's still on my health insurance. She was brought in after an altercation. She's lost several teeth, has a broken jaw, and needs to stay under observation for a few days. I brought her parents with me to the hospital. We learned that some of Rachel's new friends had beaten her up. Apparently, they found out Henry had access to chat logs from Henrietta's phone. They assumed Rachel had given him the logs and retaliated against her. Incredibly, Rachel still doesn't realize I've been monitoring her phone this whole time. During our visit, Rachel asked if she could move back into my house. My answer was immediate. No way in hell. Her parents offered her another chance to live with them, but only under the same strict conditions: getting clean, staying in rehab, and cutting ties with her bad influences. Rachel doesn't seem interested, and if she refuses, I have no idea how she'll survive. For the first time since this began, I saw a glimmer of regret from her. She muttered, "I'm sorry I ruined everything." But it didn't feel genuine. She barely made eye contact, and her demeanor was more irritated than remorseful. Seeing her like this hurt. Part of me wanted to protect her, but I know I can't. She's an adult making dangerous, destructive choices, and my priority has to be protecting my kids. Not once did she ask about the hearing or her critically injured friend. She just sat there, distant and detached, as though nothing mattered. I don't understand her actions. She's lost her family, destroyed countless relationships, and caused immense pain to everyone around her. For what? A temporary high and meaningless encounters? I'm going completely no contact with her unless she gets clean and proves she's serious about changing. I can't deal with her chaos anymore. For those asking for an update, I'm sorry this took so long. I'm exhausted and depressed. I barely sleep, and when I do, the nightmares pull me right back into this mess. I just need to get through this and focus on building a stable, happy life for my kids. There's finally some good news. Henry's kids are doing much better. He's over the moon to have them back, and it's heartwarming to see them start to heal. On my side, my dad continues to be an absolute rock. I don't know how I'd get through this without him. Over the weekend, he took me and the kids to his cabin for a short skiing trip. It was exactly what we needed, a break from all the chaos. I've essentially cut off contact with Rachel, but I did end up talking to one of her harpy friends, the one who had been in critical condition. She's in rough shape, both physically and emotionally. When I spoke to her nurse, I learned no one had come to see her the entire time she'd been there. Her family had been contacted but refused to visit. I've been worried about the people who attacked Rachel potentially targeting me or the kids, so I reached out to this friend through her nurse, asking if I could speak to her. She agreed. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I felt like I needed answers, an explanation of what had happened since Rachel joined their circle. The conversation started awkwardly. The first thing she said to me was if I wanted a certain kind of favor for $20. Not exactly the tone I was expecting. I countered by offering $50 for information instead. She opened up about the group's dynamics. Apparently, the Harpies are all heavy drug users, deeply addicted. Henrietta dragged Rachel into their circle despite resistance from the other two. Henrietta convinced Rachel to try drugs and party with them. Things escalated quickly. Rachel became addicted and eventually started selling sex to support her habit. According to her, it's mainly meth. The Harpies cloak their behavior in feminist slogans like, "My body, my choice." But as she admitted, it's just an excuse to protect our fragile egos. What we're really doing is prostituting ourselves to buy drugs. Hearing this was soul-crushing. The woman I loved more than anything, the mother of my children, had become unrecognizable. The realization that she turned to prostitution to feed her addiction was devastating. Suddenly, her obsession with money during the divorce made sense. This harpy explained that Rachel has burned every bridge in her life. She's stolen from, lied to, and cheated on everyone who cared about her. No one wants anything to do with her anymore. She said flatly that Rachel was sad she survived her overdose, and has no hope for the future. She looks like a shell of herself, lifeless without the makeup to mask the damage. I cried after hearing this. Not for me, but for the Rachel I once knew. I'm not excusing her choices. She played with fire, and now she's paying the price. Henrietta has been charged with a long list of crimes: death threats, resisting arrest, possession, prostitution, trafficking, child abuse, neglect, DUI, property damage, and auto theft. She's been denied bail as a flight risk and will likely face significant prison time, especially if her critically injured friend doesn't make it. A lot of you warned me that Rachel might try to end her life now that everything is closing in on her. You were right. While we were at the cabin on Saturday, I got a message from Rachel that read like a suicide note. She confessed to her addiction, the prostitution, and how she'd let everyone down. She said she was going to do the only thing she could. Thanks to the monitoring software on her phone, I had her location. I immediately called her father, who rushed out and found her unconscious on a park bench. She was severely hypothermic and taken to the hospital, where they managed to stabilize her. She's now on methadone and undergoing forced detox. Her father was appointed her legal guardian, not because of the overdose, but because abandoning her children proved she wasn't rational. As her guardian, he's had her committed to a rehab center. I haven't had a chance to cancel Rachel's health and life insurance yet, so she'll continue to receive treatment. I've offered to help her father with the finances as long as Rachel doesn't know I'm involved. I've been terrified that the people who attacked Rachel might come after me and the kids. Their belief that Rachel gave Henry the chat logs put her in danger, and I'm worried they might shift their focus to us. I talked to Henry, and he agreed to handle the situation since he benefited from the disclosure. It's been a heavy few days. Between managing the fallout and trying to keep the kids safe, I'm exhausted. I'm grateful for the support from friends and family, but this whole situation weighs on me like a ton of bricks. For now, all I can do is keep moving forward and hope for better days ahead. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Henry is an absolute mountain of a man. He's built like the Hulk, broad shoulders, thick muscles, and the kind of strength that comes from a lifetime of hard work. Growing up on a farm, He's been hauling heavy loads since he was a kid. He bends down to walk through doorways, sports a crew cut, and has a few facial scars that add to his already intimidating presence. That said, Henry's personality is the complete opposite of what you'd expect. He's patient, gentle, and kind to a fault. But I have no doubt he's capable of using force if the situation absolutely demands it. It's just that for him, violence is always the last resort. Henry took it upon himself to deal with the guys who attacked Rachel. He found them at their apartment, a complete dump, by the way, and knocked on their door. Once inside, he grabbed both men by the neck and laid out their options in no uncertain terms. Accompany him to the police and confess everything about the assault, or stay put and face him directly, with the assurance of very painful, permanent consequences if they chose option 2. As Henry told me, he made it clear he was rooting for them to choose option 2. Apparently, they couldn't get to the police fast enough. Suffice it to say, I no longer have any concerns about them coming after me or the kids. I've found a new apartment, and I'll be moving soon. Bob, as always, came through for me. Still, I can't shake the weight of everything that's happened. It's like a heavy cloud hanging over my soul. What keeps me going is my friends and family, and the knowledge that I need to stay strong for my kids. My heart breaks for Rachel. Despite everything, I don't regret marrying her. I still love the person she used to be, but I know we can never go back to that. Too much has happened, and she's not the woman I once knew. Even with all the pain she's caused, I can't overlook the good times we had. Without Rachel, I wouldn't have Emily and Logan, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. Oddly enough, the news of Rachel's addiction has made it easier to help the kids process what's happening. Framing it as, "Mommy is sick, and it's going to take a long time for her to get better," has given them something they can understand. I always tell them she still loves them, even if she can't be with us right now. It's still hard, though. I'm exhausted, and the sadness feels unending. Henry and his kids are here now. We're going to watch Madagascar 3 together, a little light-hearted fun. Both his kids and mine seem to be doing better. The laughter and smiles on their faces remind me why it's so important to keep moving forward. I'm trying to create as many happy new memories as possible, and Henry's doing the same. It's been a long, painful road, but I think we're going to be okay.